Chapter 5: The Dark Truth. The cold wind nipped at Sophia's face as she walked aimlessly through the city streets. Her confrontation with Ethan had left her reeling, her mind swirling with unanswered questions and unrelenting pain. His explanation had only raised more doubts. Was he lying to protect himself, or was there really something darker behind it all? By the time Sophia reached her apartment, a plan had formed in her mind. If Ethan wouldn't give her the truth, she'd find it herself. She grabbed her laptop and began digging into everything she could find about Ethan, his family, and the alleged threats he'd mentioned. Sophia didn't have to search long before she uncovered something disturbing. An article from a few years ago detailed a scandal involving Ethan's father, Charles Carter, who had been accused of embezzling millions from a charitable foundation. The case had never gone to trial. Charles had disappeared shortly after the accusations surfaced. Sophia leaned back in her chair, the pieces clicking into place. If Ethan's father had been involved in criminal activity, it wasn't hard to imagine that someone might have come after Ethan to settle old scores. But why hadn't Ethan ever told her about his father's crimes? And why had Rachel been brought into the fold? Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from Rachel. "We need to talk. Please, just hear me out." Sophia's hands hovered over the screen before she typed a curt reply. "Your place. Now." An hour later, Sophia stood in Rachel's living room, arms crossed as Rachel paced nervously. "I didn't know how to tell you," Rachel began. "When Ethan came to me after the accident, he swore me to secrecy. He said it was the only way to keep you safe." Sophia glared at her. "Safe from what exactly? Because all I see are excuses." Rachel hesitated, wringing her hands. "From the people his father owed money to. Ethan told me that after Charles disappeared, they came after him. They made threats, serious ones. He said they'd hurt you if he didn't disappear." Sophia's voice was cold. "And you believed him? Just like that?" Rachel faltered. "I didn't at first, but then things started happening. My car was vandalized. Strange men showed up outside my apartment. It was real, Sophia. They were watching both of us." Sophia felt a chill run down her spine. "So, what? Ethan fakes his death, leaves me behind, and runs to you for comfort, and that's when you decided to play house?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "It wasn't like that. I didn't plan for any of this to happen. Ethan needed someone, and I was lonely. I thought I was helping him, but then things just spiraled." Sophia's voice broke. "You were supposed to be my best friend, Rachel. How could you do this to me?" Rachel sank into a chair, her head in her hands. "I don't have an excuse, Sophia. I was selfish. I should have told you the truth, but I didn't know how to. And then it was too late." Sophia turned away, her anger simmering beneath the surface. But before she could say more, Rachel spoke again, her voice trembling. "There's something else you should know." Sophia froze. "What now?" Rachel hesitated. "Ethan didn't tell you the full story. The threats didn't stop after he disappeared. The people after him, they're still out there. And they're watching you, Sophia." Sophia's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" Rachel nodded toward her kitchen counter, where a plain white envelope sat. "That came yesterday. No return address. Inside was a picture of you, taken last week." Sophia's stomach dropped. She snatched the envelope and pulled out the photo. It was her, walking to work, completely unaware she was being watched. Her hands trembled as she looked back at Rachel. "Why didn't you tell me this sooner?" "I was scared," Rachel whispered. "I thought if I ignored it, maybe it would go away. But it's not going away, Sophia. They're coming after you now." Sophia's mind raced, a mixture of fear and anger coursing through her. Ethan had dragged her into something far more dangerous than she had realized, and now, because of his lies, her life was at risk. She took a deep breath, her voice steady despite the panic bubbling beneath the surface. "This ends now. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. If Ethan got us into this mess, he's going to help get us out of it." At Chapter 6, Rachel's Betrayal. Sophia sat at her kitchen table, staring at the photograph Rachel had given her. The image haunted her, her figure frozen mid-step, oblivious to the watchful eyes behind the lens. A surge of dread crept over her as she replayed Rachel's words. "They're coming after you now." She clenched her fists. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about survival. But there was one nagging thought she couldn't shake. Rachel. Her best friend had lied to her, betrayed her trust, and kept Ethan's secrets. And now she was claiming to be on Sophia's side? Sophia's instincts screamed at her not to trust her. The next morning, Sophia decided to dig deeper into Rachel's involvement. If Rachel had truly been keeping tabs on her for Ethan, there had to be evidence. Sophia arrived at Rachel's house unannounced, feigning calm as she knocked on the door. Rachel greeted her, looking tired and wary. "Sophia," she said, forcing a weak smile, "I wasn't expecting you." "I need answers," Sophia said bluntly, stepping past Rachel into the house. "And I need them now." Rachel closed the door and followed her into the living room. "I already told you everything I know." "No," Sophia said, turning to face her. "You told me the version that makes you look like a victim. But there's more, isn't there? I want the whole truth." Rachel hesitated, her face pale. "What are you talking about?" Sophia pulled out her phone, where she'd saved a screenshot of Rachel's social media photo with Ethan. This was taken months after Ethan's death. "You didn't just fall into a relationship with him, Rachel. You were with him from the start, weren't you?" Rachel's lips parted, but no words came out. Her silence was an admission. Sophia pressed on, her voice sharp. "How long? How long were you lying to me, pretending to be my friend while you were with him?" Tears welled in Rachel's eyes. "Sophia, Save it," Sophia snapped. "You knew he wasn't dead. You knew I was grieving for someone who was alive. How could you do that to me?" Rachel broke down, sinking into the couch. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way," she sobbed. "Ethan came to me after the accident, and I was scared. He told me everything about his father, the threats, why he had to disappear. I wanted to tell you, but he begged me not to, and I didn't know how to say no." Sophia's anger simmered beneath the surface. "And while I was falling apart, you were building a life with him?" "It wasn't like that," Rachel pleaded. "At first, I was just helping him. He was broken, Sophia. He thought he'd lost everything. And then, I don't know how it happened, but we fell for each other." Sophia laughed bitterly. "You fell for each other. How romantic. And now I'm supposed to believe you care about me? That you're trying to protect me?" Rachel wiped her tears, her voice trembling. "I do care, Sophia. I never stopped caring. That's why I'm telling you this now. You're in danger, and I want to help." But Sophia's trust had been shattered. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on Rachel's desk in the corner. Among the papers and notebooks was a small black journal that seemed out of place. "What's that?" Sophia asked, nodding toward it. Rachel's face went white. "It's nothing," she said quickly. Sophia didn't wait for permission. She crossed the room, snatching the journal before Rachel could stop her. Flipping it open, she scanned the pages. Her stomach turned as she realized what she was holding, a detailed account of Sophia's movements, written in Rachel's neat handwriting. "What is this?" Sophia demanded, her voice shaking. "You've been spying on me?" Rachel stepped forward, her hands raised in a placating gesture. "It's not what it looks like." "Then what is it?" Sophia interrupted. "Because it looks like you've been keeping tabs on me for Ethan. How long has this been going on?" Rachel's silence was deafening. Sophia's hands trembled as she slammed the journal onto the coffee table. "You're no better than Ethan. Both of you decided what was best for me without my consent. You've been controlling my life while pretending to care." "I didn't want to hurt you," Rachel whispered. "I thought I was helping." Sophia shook her head, tears blurring her vision. "Helping? You didn't help me. You betrayed me. And now I don't know who to trust anymore." Rachel's expression crumpled, but Sophia didn't stay to hear any more excuses. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, her heart pounding. As she stepped onto the street, Sophia felt the weight of everything crushing down on her. Ethan and Rachel had both betrayed her in ways she couldn't have imagined, but she wasn't the same woman who had crumbled after Ethan's death. This time, she would fight back. Sophia pulled out her phone and dialed the only person who could give her the answers she needed, Ethan. "Meet me," she said when he picked up. "Somewhere public. You owe me the truth, and I'm not leaving until I get it." Ethan hesitated, but eventually agreed. As Sophia hung up, her resolve hardened. She wasn't running anymore. If Ethan and Rachel thought they could manipulate her, they were about to find out how wrong they were. Chapter 7: The Final Reckoning. Sophia chose a crowded cafe downtown for her meeting with Ethan. The morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows, reflecting off the gleaming tables and bustling patrons. She'd picked this location intentionally: public, safe, and neutral. But despite the chatter around her, she felt a quiet storm brewing inside. Ethan walked in, his face grim, scanning the room until he found her. He approached cautiously, his usual confidence dimmed by guilt. He sat across from her, the table between them feeling like a canyon. "Sophia," he began, his voice soft. "I didn't think you'd want to see me again." "I don't," she replied coldly. "But I'm done with lies, Ethan. I want the truth, all of it. No more excuses, no more half-truths. If you owe me anything, it's that." Ethan leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "You have every right to hate me. I deserve it. But I swear, everything I did was to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Sophia demanded. "Your father's mess? The so-called threats that you conveniently forgot to tell me about until now?" Ethan sighed, his gaze dropping to the table. "My father made a lot of enemies when he stole that money, but it wasn't just criminals. He crossed powerful people. People who don't forgive, who don't stop until they've gotten what they want. When they couldn't find him, they came for me. And when they saw how much I cared about you, they used you as leverage." Sophia's chest tightened. "So you decided to fake your death and leave me to grieve alone? Why not tell me? Why not let me decide for myself if I wanted to stay?" "I couldn't risk it," Ethan said, his voice heavy with regret. "If you knew, you would have stayed by my side, and that would have put you in even more danger. I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you safe. Except you didn't disappear," Sophia shot back. "You ran to Rachel." Ethan winced. "I needed someone I could trust to keep an eye on you. Rachel was supposed to be a go-between, nothing more. But then things changed. She was there when I had nothing. And I don't," Sophia interrupted, her voice sharp. "I don't need to hear how you justified betraying me." Ethan looked at her, his expression pained. "Sophia, I never stopped caring about you. Not for a second. Everything I've done was for you," she finished bitterly. "Not for me. You never gave me a choice, Ethan. You made decisions for both of us, and now I'm the one paying for them." Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, Sophia leaned forward, her eyes blazing. "Rachel told me about the photo, about the people still watching me. How long were you going to let them use me as bait?" His face paled. "What photo?" Sophia pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. Ethan stared at the image, his expression hardening. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he muttered. "They were supposed to leave you alone once I was out of the picture." "Well, they didn't," Sophia said, "and now I'm done playing the helpless victim in whatever game you and your father started. I want this to end, Ethan. Now." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "There's a way, but it's dangerous." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous for who?" "For all of us," Ethan admitted. "The people after me, they don't just want revenge. They want the money my father stole. If we can find it and return it, maybe they'll back off." "And you think they'll just forgive and forget?" Sophia asked skeptically. "No," Ethan said grimly, "but it might buy us enough time to disappear for good." Sophia considered his words, her heart pounding. Every instinct screamed at her to walk away, to leave Ethan and his mess behind. But the thought of living the rest of her life looking over her shoulder was unbearable. "Fine," she said finally, "but I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me." Sophia met Ethan and Rachel at a secluded storage facility on the outskirts of the city. The air was thick with tension as Ethan opened a dusty metal locker and pulled out a duffel bag. Inside were stacks of cash, legal documents, and a flash drive. "This is everything," Ethan said. "The money my father stole, the records of his transactions, proof of who he was working with." Sophia glanced at Rachel, who looked pale but determined. "And what's the plan?" "Hand this over and hope for the best," Ethan nodded. "We arrange a meeting with their contact, give them what they want, and pray it's enough." Sophia's stomach churned. The idea of walking into a room with dangerous criminals was terrifying, but she refused to back down. "Let's do it," she said, her voice steady. The meeting took place in an abandoned warehouse, the air thick with dust and tension. A group of men waited for them, their faces shadowed and unreadable. Ethan stepped forward, the duffel bag in hand. "This is everything," he said, his voice firm. "The money, the records, proof that it's all there." One of the men stepped forward, inspecting the bag's contents before nodding to the others. "You've bought yourself some time," he said, "but don't think this erases the debt. If you cross us again, there won't be a warning." Sophia held her breath as the men left, relief flooding her when the warehouse fell silent. "It's over," Ethan said, turning to her. Sophia shook her head. Not for me. This doesn't fix what you've done, Ethan. I'm done with you. And Rachel. As she walked away from the warehouse, Sophia felt a strange sense of clarity. She had faced the truth, confronted her past, and survived. Now it was time to rebuild her life on her terms. She didn't look back. Chapter 8: A New Beginning. Sophia stood at the window of her new apartment, the skyline of the city stretching out before her as the sun dipped below the horizon. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind: confrontations, lies unraveled, and the undeniable weight of betrayal. Yet, as she watched the colors of the sunset paint the sky, there was a sense of peace settling inside her. She had survived. After the meeting with Ethan and the criminal group, everything had finally come to a head. The money had been returned. The threats had stopped, but it hadn't been a fair trade. The emotional toll of everything that had happened was still there, lingering beneath the surface. She had faced the truth, and though it had been painful, it had freed her in ways she couldn't fully describe. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from her sister, Lauren. "How's the new place? I can't wait to see it." Sophia smiled as she typed her response. "It's great, actually. I'm starting fresh. I'll show you around soon." A knock at the door interrupted her. Sophia turned, expecting it to be the delivery of some furniture or another package she'd ordered. But when she opened the door, she was surprised to see Rachel standing there, hesitantly holding a bouquet of flowers. Sophia's heart clenched. Rachel had been trying to reach her for days, but Sophia had ignored every call and text. The betrayal was still raw, and the thought of facing Rachel again was more than she could handle. Yet here she was. "I know you don't want to see me," Rachel said quietly, her voice filled with regret. "But I need to apologize. I've hurt you in ways I can't take back." Sophia swallowed hard, emotions threatening to overwhelm her. She stepped aside, allowing Rachel to enter, though her mind screamed to walk away. Rachel stood in the middle of the room, the flowers still clutched in her hands. "I don't expect you to forgive me, Sophia. I just—" Her voice broke. "I was selfish. I let fear control me, and I lost sight of what really mattered. I lost you. And for that, I'm so sorry." Sophia took a deep breath, her gaze steady but filled with pain. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Rachel. What you did, it wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal, and that's not something easily forgiven." Rachel nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I know, and I'll never expect you to forget. But I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry for everything. And if you can't have me in your life anymore, I'll respect that. I just wanted to say it one last time." The room fell into a heavy silence. Sophia could feel the weight of their past, all the laughter, the shared secrets, and the love that once existed between them, now clouded by everything that had happened. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice quiet but resolute. "You've hurt me, Rachel, and I'm not sure I'll ever be able to move past that. But I'm not the same person I was when Ethan disappeared. I've learned to stand on my own, and I've learned that I can't depend on people who aren't honest with me." Rachel nodded again, her shoulders slumping. "I understand, and I'll accept whatever you decide. I just want you to know you'll always have my apology." Sophia's gaze softened for a moment. "I don't need your apology, Rachel. I just need to move on. For both of us." Rachel wiped away a tear and turned to leave. Before she reached the door, she looked back at Sophia one last time. "I hope you find happiness, Sophia. You deserve it." And then she was gone. Sophia closed the door behind her and let out a slow breath, feeling both relieved and exhausted. She had faced the ghosts of her past, Ethan, Rachel, the lies, the betrayals, and she had emerged stronger, no longer tethered to the pain. She looked around her apartment, now filled with boxes and the remnants of her fresh start. There was still work to be done, but for the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful. Sophia knew there would still be moments when the weight of her past would surface, when memories would hit her like waves, threatening to pull her under. But she had learned something important through everything she had endured. She was enough. With a final glance at the city below, she walked over to the window and pulled the blinds open. The night sky stretched out before her, vast and full of possibility. The phone buzzed again. This time, a call from an unknown number. Sophia hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello? Sophia?" The voice on the other end was unfamiliar but warm. This is Robert from the Community Center. I saw your application, and we'd love to have you on board for the charity event next month. Would you be interested in helping out? Sophia's heart skipped a beat, a spark of excitement flaring inside her. I'd love to, she said, her voice steady, full of new resolve. Count me in. As she hung up the phone, Sophia smiled to herself. There was no going back. The past would always be a part of her, but it didn't define her anymore. The future was hers to shape, and she was ready for whatever came next. Thank you so much for joining me on this emotional journey through Sophia's story. Life is full of twists and turns, and sometimes the most unexpected moments teach us who we truly are. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more tales of love, betrayal, and redemption, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more. Hit the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter of our adventures. And let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Sophia's shoes? Your support means the world to me. Until next time, stay safe, stay inspired, and keep exploring new stories.